I've always been a rational person. I don't believe in ghosts. Horror movies make me laugh more than they scare me. When I hear a creak in the night, I assume it's the house settling, not some creature crawling through the walls. That's why I can't explain what happened to me without sounding insane. But I know what I saw, and I know it started on the third night. I had just moved into a small apartment in an old brownstone in Boston. It had charm, ornate ceiling moldings, hardwood floors that groaned underfoot, and a crooked hallway that tilted just enough to make you question your balance after a drink. The landlord, a man named Mr. Whitmore, looked like he hadn't smiled since the 60s. He handed me the keys with a warning. Don't go poking around the building. Old bones hold secrets. I thought he was trying to be poetic. The first night was uneventful. I unpacked a few boxes, set up my mattress, and ate pizza on the floor while watching crime documentaries on my laptop. The usual new place jitters were there, but nothing weird. The second night, I stayed up late organizing books and shelving my plants. It was around 2 a.m. when I heard it. A faint, rhythmic knocking, far away, like someone tapping gently from behind a wall. I paused, listening. It stopped. Probably pipes, I told myself. Old building and all. I didn't think about it again until the third night. That's when I saw the door. It was around midnight. I was walking to the kitchen for water, barefoot, bleary-eyed. The hallway outside my bedroom was dim, lit only by the soft glow from a wall sconce. But something was off. There was a door at the end of the hall. I stopped. There had never been a door there before. The hall ended in a blank wall. I knew that. I'd been down that hallway every day for 3 days. But now there was a door. It was old, pale wood, like it had been bleached by sun that didn't exist. It had no number, no frame, just a brass knob and a small keyhole shaped like an eye. I stared at it, waiting for my brain to catch up. Okay, I whispered. This is new. I walked toward it, slowly, expecting it to vanish like a mirage. But it stayed. Tangible. Real. I reached out and touched it. The wood was cold, almost damp. It sent a jolt through my fingers. Then I did something stupid. I tried the knob. Locked. Good, I thought. That meant it wasn't for me. Maybe a utility closet? Maybe I just hadn't noticed it before? I went back to bed. At 3:13 a.m., I woke up suddenly. No noise. No dream. Just wide awake. My chest was tight, heart pounding like I'd been running. Then I heard it. Click. A soft metallic sound, just outside my door. I sat up, holding my breath. Slowly, I got out of bed and opened my bedroom door. The hallway was darker now, as if the light had been swallowed. The door at the end of the hall, that door was cracked open. Blackness oozed from it like fog. And then I heard it. You should not be here on the third night. A whisper. Rustling leaves. Right behind my ear, even though no one was there. I slammed my door shut and locked it. Every light in my room went on. I sat on my bed clutching a dull kitchen knife, eyes fixed on the handle. It never turned. Eventually, I must have fallen asleep, because the sun was creeping through the blinds when I opened my eyes. I crept into the hallway. The door was gone. I stood at the end of the hall, staring at the blank wall, running my hands over it as if I could find a seam. Nothing. No hinges. No knob. Just paint and plaster. I didn't go to work that day. I needed to know I wasn't losing my mind. I checked the building's blueprint online. Nothing about a door at the end of the hallway. I even knocked on my neighbors' doors, asking casual questions about renovations and weird doors. One old woman on the third floor muttered, "It always finds someone new." But when I asked what she meant, she just smiled sadly and shut the door. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the hallway with my back to the wall, eyes fixed on the blank space where the door had been. I had coffee, a flashlight. I even set up my phone to record in case something happened. Hours passed. The hallway stayed the same. Nothing moved. I started to relax, almost ashamed of how scared I'd been. Then, at exactly 3:13 a.m., click. The sound made me drop the flashlight. The door was back. Only this time it was open, wide open, and someone was standing in it. No, not someone. Something. A shape. Human, maybe, but wrong. It looked like it had been burned into the air itself. A black silhouette, twitching in subtle, impossible ways, like static on a broken TV. Every time I blinked, its posture shifted slightly, though I never saw it move. I couldn't speak, couldn't even breathe. Then it stepped forward, just one slow, weightless glide, and said, "Fourth night, we come inside." I don't remember standing up. I don't remember grabbing my phone or running. One moment I was frozen in front of that thing, and the next, I was outside in the freezing Boston air, barefoot on the sidewalk, shivering with a scream still caught in my throat. I drove to a friend's place across town. I didn't explain much, just showed up at 4 a.m., pale and shaking. Rachel didn't ask questions. She let me in, gave me tea, and let me crash on her couch. Couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the figure in the doorway. Not standing, hovering. Not human. The way it had said, "Fourth night, we come inside," echoed like a threat and a promise. I stayed at Rachel's the whole day. She offered to let me stay longer, but I didn't want to drag her into whatever this was. That night, against every instinct in my body, I went back to my apartment. I don't know what I expected. Maybe I thought it would all be gone. Just a hallucination, a stress-induced breakdown. But the moment I stepped inside, something in the air felt off. Heavy, like the walls were holding their breath. I kept the lights on, every single one. I showered with the door open and music playing. I even lined the hallway with salt, like something out of a bad exorcism movie. I laughed at myself while doing it, but my hands were shaking. At 3 a.m., I sat in the living room with my flashlight and my phone. I couldn't bring myself to go near the hallway. 3:13, I heard it again. Click. But this time, it didn't come from the hallway. It came from the kitchen. I turned slowly, my stomach folding in on itself. There, next to the pantry, was a door. Same pale wood. Same brass knob. Same slow, spreading darkness leaking from the crack. It had moved. I stepped back, nearly tripping over the coffee table. "Fourth night, we come inside." The voice whispered again, but this time it wasn't outside. It was everywhere. I locked myself in the bathroom and stayed there until dawn. The 5th day, I called a psychic. I know, it sounds stupid, but I had already tried logic, denial, and whiskey. Nothing was working. Her name was Talia. Mid-50s, heavy Boston accent, gold rings on every finger. She didn't laugh when I told her about the door. She came over that afternoon, walked the apartment once, then stood in the hallway with her eyes closed. When she opened them, they were wet. "Something's feeding on you," she said. "It's old. Curious. It doesn't live here. It follows." I didn't want to believe her. "Why me?" "You let it notice you," she said. "You acknowledged it. Most people ignore the door. Most never see it. But you looked. You touched it. What does it want?" Talia didn't answer right away. She walked into the kitchen. Stopped. There was a door again. Different wall. Same design. She stared at it. Her lips trembled. "It's choosing a room." "A room?" Talia turned to me. "Once it chooses, that space no longer belongs to you." We left. She refused to come back. That night I stayed at a motel. Clean, bright, normal. A stupid travel channel was playing on the TV. I left it on for comfort. I was asleep by 11. At 3:13 a.m., I woke up cold. Not metaphorically. The temperature had dropped like I'd been shoved into a freezer. My breath fogged the air. The TV was off, the lights dead, and my phone cracked. It had been on the charger. Now it lay on the carpet, screen splintered. And on the far wall, right between the minibar and the bathroom, was the door. Followed me. I stood up too fast and got dizzy. My legs ached. My head throbbed. And the whisper came again. Closer now. 5th night, we mark the walls. I didn't wait to see what that meant. I ran. Out the motel room, down the stairwell, into the cold night air. I didn't even take my bag. The next morning, I went back to the apartment to pack. I didn't care about the lease anymore. I was leaving the city, the state, maybe the country. I told myself if I moved fast enough, changed everything. It wouldn't be able to find me again. But when I got there, the walls were different. Every room had marks. Not paint, not ink. Carvings. Dozens, maybe hundreds of them. Thin lines gouged into the drywall, floorboards, doors, windows. Tiny scratch marks spiraling outward from invisible points, like fingerprints melted into wood. In the hallway, right where the door had first appeared, something was scrawled in jagged letters. Count your nights. I felt nauseous. The floor swayed under my feet. I should have left. I should have run. But I walked deeper into the apartment, hypnotized by the markings, trying to make sense of them. That's when I saw it. The door. Again. Except this time it was inside. It had taken the place of my bedroom door. Pale wood. Brass knob. Darkness curling out like mist. There was no warning this time. No whisper. No figure in the doorway. Just the feeling deep and primal that if I didn't leave right that second, I would never leave at all. I backed away slowly, then turned and ran. I've been staying with Rachel again. She doesn't know the full story. I told her it was a stalker situation. She changed the locks, bought me pepper spray. I haven't slept since. Last night, around 3:13, I heard a soft click from the guest room. She didn't hear it. She couldn't see the door. But I could. And the carvings have started appearing in her walls. Rachel thinks I'm losing my mind. She doesn't say it outright. She's too kind for that. But it's in her eyes every time I mention the door. Or the cold spots. Or the way the clocks in her house seem to pause at 3:13 a.m. just long enough to be noticed. Last night she said, "You should talk to someone." I wanted to scream. "I am talking to someone. I'm talking to you. Please listen." But instead, I just nodded and said, "Maybe you're right." She let me stay another night. I didn't tell her the carvings were on her guest room walls now too. Not all over yet, just a few. Small ones, tucked into the corners of the ceiling, like someone had dragged a razor through the paint. Spiral patterns. Always spirals. I tried painting over them that morning. Didn't work. By noon, the spirals were back. Same shape, same size, same depth. Like the wall remembered. I started hearing things. Not the whispers. Those come only at 3:13 a.m., always from behind the newest door. But now there are new sounds. Soft dragging across the carpet. Breathing that doesn't match my own. A low, rhythmic tapping like long fingernails on wood. The worst part? Rachel doesn't hear any of it. She thinks I'm having night terrors. Sleep paralysis. Trauma. She doesn't know that I'm not even sleeping. I woke her up last night. I didn't mean to. It was 3:11 a.m., and I was sitting up in bed, waiting for the click. The new door had appeared in the guest room again, this time on the ceiling. I didn't know that was possible. I was staring at it when it began to open. Not like a normal door, like a mouth. That's the only way I can describe it. The way it widened, slow, wet yawning made my stomach twist. Black mist poured out and began dripping onto the bed. That's when Rachel burst in, eyes wide, hair messy, her voice cracking. "What the hell is happening?" She flicked the light on. The door was gone. So was the mist. But the ceiling, right where the door had been, was soaked. I could smell it. Earthy, like rot and mold and something buried too long. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. Rachel backed away from the room like it was on fire. We talked at breakfast. She asked if I was on anything. I told her no. She didn't believe me. She begged me to go to the hospital. Said maybe it was a breakdown, a brain tumor, something that could be fixed. I told her the truth. It's not me. It's the door. She didn't argue. She just started crying. That night, I decided I couldn't keep dragging her into this. If it was following me, I needed to stop letting it find new places to appear. Rachel was already marked. Those carvings on her walls weren't subtle anymore. She just didn't see them. But maybe I could contain it. So I did the only thing I could think of. I went back to the original apartment. Mr. Whitmore didn't answer his door, even though his car was in the driveway. I thought about knocking again, then decided it was better not to involve him. If he knew what the door was, and I'm starting to think he did, he'd chosen to stay quiet for a reason. The apartment was cold when I entered. Not because of the weather, just cold. Felt like the air had forgotten how to hold heat. I stepped inside, carrying only a backpack, a flashlight, a hammer, and a bag of salt. My plan wasn't solid, I just knew I had to do something. Fight back. Push it out. I started in the kitchen. The walls were still marked. The counter was sticky, like it hadn't been used in weeks, even though it had been days. I poured the salt in a circle around the main room. Hung mirrors, lit candles, every horror movie trick I could remember. Then I waited. 3:13 came. The door didn't appear in the kitchen or the hallway. It appeared in the mirror. I was staring at my reflection when the surface rippled, like a pebble dropped in water. And there it was, framed in the glass behind me. The door. And in front of it, not the figure this time. This time it was me, or rather a version of me. Same face, same clothes, but its eyes were wrong. Empty, dark sockets, wide and grinning, like it had borrowed my shape but didn't know how to wear it properly. It raised its hand and tapped the inside of the glass once. Tap, tap, tap. Then it smiled wider and said, "Sixth night, we become you." I swung the hammer. The mirror shattered. Glass exploded across the floor, and with it, the door vanished. The room snapped back into normal, but the salt circle was gone, scattered like someone had stepped through it. I didn't sleep again. I sat in the living room until morning. When the sun rose, I walked to the bedroom and found something new. A sixth door. Not in the wall, not on the floor, but carved into my chest of drawers, like the outline of a door, etched clean into the wood. A message beneath it in jagged letters. One more night. The message stayed with me all day. One more night. It pulsed in the back of my skull like a second heartbeat. Couldn't eat. Couldn't focus. Every creak in the floorboards felt like a countdown. I tried calling Rachel, but it went straight to voicemail. I told myself she was just angry or scared. I was scared too. By sunset, the apartment had gone quiet. Too quiet. Not just in the absence of sound, but in the way dead spaces go quiet. Like the walls were listening, waiting. I thought about leaving, packing a bag, disappearing, going off-grid. But somewhere deep inside, I knew that wouldn't work. It had followed me to the motel, to Rachel's. It was never about the place. It was about me. It had chosen me. I made preparations. Salt again. Not that it helped last time. Candles in every room. I dug through the closet until I found my childhood Bible, dusty and warped. I wasn't religious, but fear has a way of making you reach for anything with weight. I didn't even read it, I just held it. I didn't want to be alone, but I was. At 2:45 a.m., the apartment felt like a tomb. Cold. Still. The clocks ticked like the scraping of bone on stone. By 3 o'clock, the candles were flickering without wind. The shadows had begun to move on their own. The temperature dropped 10 degrees in 10 minutes. I sat on the floor of the living room, flashlight in one hand, hammer in the other, waiting. At exactly 3:13 a.m., I heard it. Click. But this time it came from everywhere. All the walls. All at once. I stood. The door wasn't in one spot anymore. It was in all of them. On every surface. Etched into the plaster, burned into the mirror, pressed into the condensation of the windows. Dozens of doors, pulsing like heartbeats, forming in tandem. Some were open. Some just trembled. And through them I could see the same thing. Me. Over and over. But not quite. One of them was taller. One shorter. One had missing fingers. One was covered in open, grinning mouths. One had no eyes. Just hollow sockets that bled slowly down its cheeks. They all looked at me, and they all smiled. Then, in one voice, my voice, they said, "Seventh night. Seventh door. One of us stays." I stepped back, but there was nowhere to go. The doors were closing in. The mirrors cracked. The floors bent. The ceiling peeled. The apartment groaned like a throat about to swallow. Then something stepped through one of the doors. It was the same figure I'd seen on the third night. The not me. The one with the wrong grin. It didn't speak this time. It just reached out, fingers too long, too many knuckles, and touched the wall next to me. The paint bubbled and peeled where it made contact. The wall blackened. Mold bloomed in a perfect spiral. Where it touched, reality thinned. I could feel it, like standing at the edge of a cliff blindfolded. That primal, breathless dread of the void waiting to receive you. No, I whispered, but I don't think it was listening. I ran. Not from fear, well yes, from fear, but also from instinct. Something inside me knew this was the night. The last one. If I stayed, it would replace me. If I fled, maybe, just maybe, I'd buy time. I crashed through the front door, barefoot, pajamas soaked with sweat. The city was silent, the kind of eerie silence that only exists between 3 and 4 a.m. I didn't stop running until I reached the old church 4 blocks down. The doors were locked. I banged on them until my hands bled. Finally, a light flicked on. A tired, frightened priest answered, his collar askew. I must have looked like a lunatic, begging him for sanctuary, saying things about doors and demons and mirrors. But he let me in. Maybe he saw something in my eyes. Maybe he'd seen something like it before. I spent the rest of the night in the pews, shivering beneath a borrowed blanket, eyes never leaving the stained glass windows. They never turned into doors. The priest gave me breakfast in silence. Didn't ask questions. Before I left, I asked him one. Have you ever heard of something that mimics people? Uses doors? He didn't answer at first. Just stared at a candle burning beside a statue of Saint Michael. Then he said quietly, there are things that linger in thresholds, things that remember the shape of souls. That's all he gave me. But it was enough. When I returned to the apartment, everything was still. No markings, no doors, just silence. But I could feel it, like someone watching from behind a two-way mirror. I didn't go inside. Instead, I packed what I could, moved in with a friend across the state. Different town, different everything. And for 3 nights, nothing happened. No doors, no whispers, just quiet. I started to think maybe I had survived. Last night, Rachel called. I hadn't spoken to her since I left. She sounded different. Her voice was calm, too calm, like someone trying to remember how to speak human. She said, I saw your door. I froze. What do you mean? I asked, but she just laughed. A soft, wet laugh, like something bubbling up from underwater. Then she said, you're not the only one who touched it. And the line went dead. I haven't been able to reach her since. I don't think it was her. I don't think it was ever just after me. The 7th night came and went. I stayed awake. I stayed vigilant. But now the rules are gone. The timeline is broken. The door can come anytime. And when it does, it doesn't knock anymore. I haven't slept in 4 days. Not truly. I gnawed off for minutes at a time. Never long enough to dream, but always long enough to hear something move behind the walls. I don't think it's trying to frighten me anymore. It doesn't have to. I've left 3 apartments, driven across 2 state lines, changed my name at a motel under fluorescent lights while my hands shook too much to hold a pen. Followed me anyway. There's no escaping the door. Because now, there isn't one. Not exactly. It doesn't need to manifest anymore. Doesn't need its shape carved into the wood, or mirrored in glass, or etched into paint. It just walks through now. And so do they. It started the night after Rachel's call. I don't think it was Rachel anymore. I don't even think it was pretending very hard. Her voice, it was stretched thin, like someone had pulled her vocal cords across a violin string and played her like a song. There was something joyful in it. Hungry. She said, you're not the only one who touched it. And now I know what she meant. The first time I saw one of them in the new apartment, it didn't come through a door. Came through the wall. No warning. No sound. Just the sickening bend of plaster and drywall as something moved behind it. Too large, too wrong. Then a hand came through. Thin. Pale. With too many knuckles. And it waved at me. I didn't scream. Couldn't. My voice was caught somewhere between my lungs and my stomach. I watched as its arms stretched forward. Not bursting through the wall but phasing, like the drywall was water. Then a face emerged. It was mine, again, but twisted this time. jaw unhinged, smile dragging too far up the cheeks, like it had forgotten how to close its mouth. It had no eyes, just dark holes where the pressure of some other world had pushed the sockets inward. "We walked the door," it said. "You opened the threshold." And then it whispered, almost sweetly, "Now we walk you." I ran again. Of course I did. But something had changed. I didn't make it outside this time. The hallway in my building stretched impossibly long, longer than physics allowed. Every door I passed was my door. My old apartments, my motel room, Rachel's guest room. They all lined the hallway like exhibits in a museum of my terror. Behind each door, I could hear them moving, scraping, breathing, mimicking, and behind one, I swear I heard my own voice, begging for help, not calling out, pleading. I don't know how I escaped. Maybe I didn't. I blacked out somewhere between running and screaming. When I woke up, it was morning, and I was back in the apartment, floor cold beneath me, hands blistered from scraping at the doorframe. The normal doorframe, not one of theirs. I didn't try to leave again. That was 2 days ago. Since then, I've seen them more often. They don't just come at 3:13 anymore. They don't even wait for nightfall. Sometimes I'll turn to grab a glass of water and see a hand reaching out from the kitchen tiles. Sometimes a face forms in the condensation of the bathroom mirror. Not watching me, but watching its own reflection. Trying to perfect it. They're learning, improving, getting better at being me. I called every psychic, priest, and medium I could find. No one returned my calls. One woman answered, listened for 30 seconds, and hung up with a whisper. "If it's past the 7th, there's nothing left to bind." That was when I stopped trying to get help. Now I'm documenting. If you're reading this, if somehow this survives me, remember, it started with a door. It ends when you look at it. Touch it even once and they'll know you. They'll follow you. They'll study you. And when they're ready, they'll replace you. Not all at once. The slower, subtle. They learn your laugh, your voice, the way you sleep, the way you lie. And one day you'll blink. And you'll be the one behind the door. Last night, I looked in the mirror and didn't see my own eyes. They were close but wrong. A fraction too wide. A little too bright. Like the reflection was excited to see me. I touched the glass. It didn't feel like glass. Felt warm. It smiled before I did. I'm not sure how much longer I have. Things are slipping. Time doesn't behave anymore. Sometimes I'll blink and it's dark. Sometimes it's light. Sometimes I wake up standing in a corner, facing the wall, nails cracked and bloody. I found a recording on my phone yesterday. A video I didn't take. In it, I'm asleep on the couch. And behind me, something steps out of the wall and leans down close to my ear. It whispers something, then smiles at the camera. I'm going to finish this. I'm going to leave this document in as many places as I can. Online, printed, scribbled on bathroom walls, whispered to strangers. If you hear about a door that shouldn't be there, don't open it. Don't touch it. Don't even look too long. Because once you see it, it sees you back. Final entry 3:13 a.m. They're here now. All of them. They've come to walk through. One of them just spoke. It said, "Thank you for keeping the light on." And then, "We think we'll fit nicely."